Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of IK NHL Daily Talk. And unfortunately for I and everyone else associated, for this episode, Jakob will not be joining me as he had a very busy day today. And obviously, when I'm recording this, well, maybe not obviously for you guys, but it is 3:14 a.m. in the morning. So I apologize for the late upload, but ultimately, this is my dedication to you guys, and I want to get the video out, you know, as much as possible. But there will be no Spotify episode today, so if you guys are watching that, just letting you know. But on that note, I guess we can jump straight into the news for today. So, our first news topic of the day, which includes a player who just signed a contract with the Chicago Blackhawks, and that is Oliver Rodrigue after terminating his contract earlier this season with Bears Astana in the KHL, which I guess he has finally recovered from his injury, so very good to see that. But yeah, he signed a 1 year contract with the Chicago Blackhawks at $775,000, so minimum league. And last season, he played for the Edmonton Oilers and the Bakersfield Condors. He did not play a single game with Bears Astana prior to terminating his deal. But yeah, in his 2 games with the Edmonton Oilers last season, he had a 310 goals against average and an 862 save percentage, which unfortunately for him, he went 0-1-0 in those performances. And in the AHL with the Condors, he had a 3.12 goals against average and an 897 save percentage, along with a shutout for a 18, 16, and 8 record, which not terrible, but also not amazing considering the prior 3 seasons. Well, I guess prior 2 seasons in the AHL, he had above a 900 save percentage, and also in his one playoff game with the Condors in the 23-24 season, that seemed to go relatively well, minus the fact that obviously we lost that game. But yeah, congrats to him, and obviously very good for him to get a deal again in the NHL. And yeah, maybe he'll return overseas eventually, but as of right now, that does not appear to be the case. But yeah, moving on to our next point, which unfortunately this player's season is over, and Jonathan Lekkerimäki of the Vancouver Canucks, or depending on, you know, what you ask, the Abbotsford Canucks, will miss the remainder of the season after undergoing shoulder surgery. So, fortunately for him, I guess he sustained a shoulder injury and will not return for the remainder of the season. And yeah, for the 21-year-old, that's very unfortunate as, he's a very good hockey player. And this season split between the Vancouver Canucks and the Abbotsford Canucks. He's basically point per game in the AHL. He's got 13 goals and 7 assists for 20 points in 21 games. And then with the Vancouver Canucks in the NHL, he has 2 goals and 1 assist for 3 points. But yeah, ultimately, you do not like to see, anyone get injured. And yeah, obviously, it's very unfortunate. But I mean, it is what it is. And hopefully, he can come back in next year and play, just as well, if not possibly even better. And like I said, for the Canucks, I think they got a player here because he is quite good. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what he can do going into the future. But yeah, for our next topic, which is actually also more injury news, and this is, I only have 2 more topics after this, and then obviously we'll get into the review of, you know, yesterday's game, or I guess not yesterday. Well, technically it is yesterday because of the what time I'm recording this, but yeah, like I said, it's 3 in the morning, and the game happened at noon today, which that was obviously Slovakia versus Finland, and we will get into that shortly. But I'm just pulling up a player's stats here, which I forgot to pull up. And unfortunately for Team Canada, Josh Morrissey, who has not played a single minute in these Olympics ever since the first period of the first game against Czechia, his campaign is over and he will not be playing in the gold game. And having a defenseman who has 42 points in 56 NHL games, which that's 10 goals, 32 assists, and obviously he played the one Olympic game, but yeah, you do not like to see, a guy of this caliber miss this sort of game. And unfortunately for him, like I said, his Olympic campaign's over, but hopefully his injury isn't too serious and that he can, come back and play, obviously, after the Olympic break. But yeah, no, best of luck to him. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, So, this is regarding a former NHL player and a player who actually attempted an NHL comeback this season after having missed last season and pretty much the entirety of the season prior. But I want to talk about Milan Lucic, who right now is playing for the Fife Flyers in the EIHL, and obviously earlier this season he tried out for the St. Louis Blues, which he was going to make their way through their minor system into the NHL or onto the NHL roster, but unfortunately he did not complete his tryout and ultimately got released by the team. But then he signed in Scotland with the Fife Flyers in the EIHL, which is the English Ice Hockey League, and he's got a pretty decent role there with 19 games played, 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points. But I know that I saw a video online where he was like, I guess it was after a game, or after a game in Scotland where his team had lost, and he started fighting his own teammates, which, I mean, personally, I don't believe is acceptable any time, but obviously not what I wanted to see out of Milan Lucic. And yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously we know the type of player he is. He's not always, been the cleanest player. He's known as a fighter. He also ran Ryan Miller at one point in his career, so he can be a dirty player. But I mean, on top of that, I mean, I seen him play as an Oiler, obviously, considering he played on my favorite team for a stretch there, and yeah, I mean, I still want to see the best for him, and hopefully his teammates and whatnot can get along after that, and hopefully it was just some sort of miscommunication or something. But yeah, nah, that was obviously not what you wanted to see. But yeah, we have one more topic of the day, and it is regarding Gavin Mckenna, which obviously we have, quite a bit to say regarding that whole situation where, you know, he ended up obviously, what's the right word? I guess, you know, punching a guy in a bar fight, and obviously he ended up with some legal trouble associated with that. But we will not be talking about that legal trouble today, and today we will be talking about the fact that he had an 8-point game for Penn State against their rivals Ohio and their 11-4 win over, I guess it was a few days ago now, but yeah, he had 8 points, which consisted of 1 goal and 7 assists. And when he scored that final goal, he hit the Conor McGregor arms behind the back, and that celebration. I tried to do my best imitation of it, but unfortunately, that is not who I am. But yeah, no, he's had an excellent year in the NCAA, which people at one point were questioning him, but after returning from the World Juniors, where he obviously had 4 goals and 10 assists for 14 points in 7 games, so 2 points per game, he's now ripping it up in the NCAA, where he has 43 points in 28 games, which, by the way, through their first 27 games between Macklin Celebrini and Gavin Mckenna, I seen a comparison that showed that McKenna had 41 points through his first 27 NCAA games, where Macklin Celebrini had himself 42 points through its first 27. So they're very comparable in at least the numbers on paper, which obviously we will see, how that translates to the NHL once he is drafted. But yeah, no, amazing game for him, and his team had a huge win. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not exactly sure how Penn State is doing as a team, but yeah, it is great to see that, they are winning some hockey games, and Gavin McKenna is now playing at an unreal level. But yeah, we will move on to the single game on the schedule today, which was the bronze medal game, and this consisted of the Slovaks versus the Finns, and unfortunately for the Slovaks, the Finns got the better of them by a wide margin. And to be honest, I don't think the score reflects the tide of this game. I think UC Saros had an excellent game for the Finns, and I mean, if it wasn't for him, I think this game could have been very different. And on top of that, a timely mistake, which was a penalty by the Slovaks, which ultimately gifted Finland another goal and basically sealed the deal. But we'll go over the play-by-play in this one, but I would like to congratulate Finland, obviously, on their bronze medal win, because I mean, you don't get to do that every day at any level of hockey, never mind, the Olympics. But yeah, in the first period, which obviously your goaltenders in this one were who we projected, it was UC Saros and Samuel Halavai. And just 7 minutes into the game, Sebastian Aho opened the scoring for the Finns. And the Finns, ultimately it was a guy in Oliver Kapanen who was playing his first game for the Finns, who, I mean, albeit he didn't score the goal, he definitely had an impact in helping the puck get to the net where he was screening the goaltender. And obviously this one assisted by Arturi Lehkonen and Miro Heiskanen, but it slipped right through the wickets of Samuel Halavai. And unfortunately for the Slovaks, Sebastian Aho is there to just pot it straight in as soon as it had slipped through the 5 hole, and he puts the Finns up 1-0. But then near the end of the period, Oliver Okuliar, which, by the way, he had a unfortunate play that resulted in, or was a part of a unfortunate play that resulted in a later Finn goal, but we will get to that later. But yeah, he took a penalty, didn't cost them. But then Eric Haula took a very odd delay of game penalty where, under very little pressure, he just kind of flipped the puck over the glass behind his net. And obviously, the Slovaks got a power play there, but obviously, they didn't score, as you would see it right here. But Eric Haula made up for his mistake pretty quickly, as, by the way, we know now this one stood as the game winner, and this was assisted by Joel Armia and Eli Tolvanen. But he kind of skated into the zone, and right off of the right wall, he just decided to rip it, well, not unfortunately, but ultimately he ended up beating Samuel Halavai. And yeah, I mean, Halavai was excellent. I don't know about today, not so much, but through the tournament, he was excellent, and he definitely gave the Slovaks a chance to win in pretty much every matchup they were a part of. But yeah, we'll move on. Arturi Lehkonen took a penalty for Finland for goaltender interference, but the Slovaks once again couldn't get one, and that was kind of the story of this game where UC Saros was making a lot of unreal saves, and I think he was ultimately the difference. But late in the period, with just 30 seconds to go, Tomáš Tatar, former NHLer, which we have spoke about a couple times, the captain for this Slovak team, which this goal was assisted by Martin Faravari, but the Slovaks kind of dumped it into the zone, and unfortunately for UC Saros, he could not get a handle on this puck, and the Slovaks end up, potting it, which Tomáš Tatar made a really nice move in one-on-one with the goaltender where he does forehanded the backhand, and it does actually clip, Saros' shoulder, but it still finds its way into the back of the net, and this would be the lone Slovak goal, but Tomáš Tatar, congrats to him for, scoring in one of the biggest games of their lives. But then moving into the third period, which obviously that was the end of the second, Pavel Regenda took the first penalty of the period, which this was the Slovaks, and I mean, this one was definitely questionable because he was kind of trying to jump out of the way of Nico Mikkola, and Nico Mikkola was kind of just there, and as he tried jumping over, he ended up knocking the stick right out of the hands of Nico Mikkola, and I think that one was debatable, but ultimately they called it, and on one of those 50-50 calls, it was what it was. But yeah, this one didn't cost them, and ultimately, no complaints, and yeah, moving on. But then the Slovaks took another penalty, which this would be Adam Ruzicka, and he took a tripping penalty, and this one would lead to a goal against, only 40 seconds in the power play, and yeah, they gave him too many chances as Miro Heiskanen took a shot from the point, and he finds his own teammate, Rope Hintz, who tips it in with a really nice backhand deflection. And Eli Tolvanen would get the second assist on this goal, but the floodgates kind of opened after this one for the Finns. And Capo Caco, it was like 42 seconds after the Rope Hintz goal, ends up rushing in off of the right wing all alone, and he buries it with a perfect shot on the blocker side of Halavai, and it goes post and in. And yeah, at this point I knew the result, the game was pretty much sealed, but I was very happy to see that, albeit the score doesn't get any better, the Slovaks did not stop pushing this entire third period, and yeah, with just under 5 minutes on the clock, they decided to pull Halavai, which I don't blame them. It was all or nothing, so they kind of had to do it. But after just 21, my bad, guys. I'm like I said, it's 3 in the morning and I'm quite tired. But yeah, 21 seconds into the empty net, or I guess with 21 seconds with the empty net, Yoel Armia buries the first empty netter, and this was assisted by Rope Hintz. And yeah, I really don't have much else to add, but Halavai goes back into the net for Slovakia, and just over 30 seconds later, once they get a clear break again, they decide to, go for round two, and they really did get some really nice sustained zone time here, and yeah, they definitely made a game out of it, and well, not really, but yeah, it felt like the Slovaks had a lot of chances, and like I said, I don't think the 6-1 score reflects how the tide of this game went, and it was just one costly mistake which opened the floodgates, and obviously the Slovaks pulling their goaltender maybe a few too many times, but yeah, Eric Haula pots the second empty netter and the final goal of the game, and that was assisted by Yoel Armia again, who had an excellent tournament, and Rasmus Ristolainen, which, yeah, then they put Halavai back in, and obviously after the sixth Finn goal, he does not leave the crease, and the game ends. But no, if I'm a fan of, this Slovak or Finnish team, I would be very proud both ways, because I mean, the Slovaks played their absolute hearts out in this tournament, and albeit they don't have as much NHL talent as other teams, they got first in Group B, and then they also ended up, you know, being a team that made it further than a team with all NHL players, like Sweden. So yeah, I mean, this team really, made me feel really good about this tournament, and I don't know, I love to see underdogs do really well, and I mean, I would have loved to have seen the medal, and that was part of the reason why I made a prediction on this one. And I do know that I predicted, obviously, well, Jakob and I both predicted Slovakia to win, which unfortunately did not happen. But yeah, no, I mean, they gave it a valiant effort, and I'm very proud of this team. But we'll go over to your stats, which I will scroll through real slow, which we have, the Slovaks, which Simon Nemec obviously played a large role in this game. And yeah, they just don't have the star power, unfortunately, if you compare them to a team like Finland. But on the 33 shots he faced, Halavai allowed 4 goals on 33 shots, and ultimately had himself an 879 save percentage, which was not good enough in this one. Then moving over to the Finns, which, by the way, Saros had a very good game. Yeah, Lindell and Heiskanen ultimately led the charge for Finland, with, Anton Lindell, one of their centers, getting a large role. Nico Mikkola getting some good minutes, but yeah, the man, the myth, the legend, UC Saros, allowing only a single goal on 31 shots, had a 968 save percentage, and like I said, I think he was the difference in this one. And yeah, the shot totals were 35 to 31, so yeah, real close. And yeah, congrats Finland, but man, I'm really excited for this Slovakia development team, because I do think they have some excellent talent there, and I mean, they've got a lot coming, and I know that they are capable of a lot more. And yeah, I'm excited that, once Nemec, once Slavkovsky get a little bit better, I think it will be amazing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. But yeah, we will move on to the NHL starting goaltenders for tomorrow, which, as of right now, they are both unconfirmed, but likely it will be Connor Hellebuck facing off against Jordan Bennington, which this would be a goaltending rematch of the Four Nations final. And by the way, this game against Canada and the US will be at 6:10 a.m. Mountain Time, so very early game, and that'll be 8:10 a.m. Eastern Time. And by the way, I will be sure to be watching that game, and yeah, even if I have to stay up for the remainder of the night, then so be it. But yeah, I will definitely be watching that game. And on that note, I will be closing the stream, and you will get to stare at my beautiful face now. But yeah, no, that is all the topics for today, and I covered everything in a very good, timely manner. As obviously, it's going to be a little bit shorter episode because I do not have Jakob to have a constant conversation with, and we can't go back and forth. So, with only one take and one opinion on each of these topics, these episodes will go by a lot faster. But yeah, you guys will have to get used to this occasionally, as single person episodes will happen, and could be Jakob, could be me. But yeah, so I want to review to yesterday's picks, which, oh brother, Jakob's the one who wrote it down. So I remember my picks. I apologize. I will not be looking to find Jakob's second pick of the day, but I picked obviously Slovakia and Juraj Slavkovsky to record a goal, which neither hit. And Jakob chose Slovakia to win, and I'm gonna fish into my, you know, the brain. Oh, he projected a Dalibor Dvorsky point. That's right. And unfortunately for him, that did not hit either. So there you have it, folks. Jakob and I both went 0 for 2 yesterday. But like I said, for the only game on tomorrow's schedule, which I will make our NHL picks, and Jakob actually sent me his picks, which I will announce his picks first, actually. And with the Canada versus US game, Jakob predicts Canada will win, and he predicts Mitch Marner to get a point, which I do like that. I think both of those are very good predictions, and hopefully for Jakob, his picks will hit. But even though he's not here, he will live on, and he still has his picks, and he will be here for tomorrow's episode. Do not fear. But I will also take Canada with my pick, and for a player point, I think I'm going to take an American because Jakob did not. I think we will see. I think we'll see a Brady to Chuck point because I don't believe that it's going to be a 1-0 game. I think we will see at least a few goals on each side. So there you have it, folks. Jakob chose Canada and Mitch Marner, and I chose a Mitch Marner point, and then I chose Canada and a Brady to Chuck point. And on that note, I will do a quick question of the day because obviously that's what we do on these YouTube videos. And I mean, we've rushed a couple of them because of the Olympics, but I have no reason to. But yeah, if you guys are watching this prior to the Olympics, obviously, who is your pick in this gold medal match between Canada and the US? And if you are watching after, are you surprised with the result, or is this game what you expected it to be? Anyways, if you guys have anything to say about the game, leave your comments down below. And yeah, thank you all for watching. We appreciate all the comments, all the views, all the likes, all the everything. And yeah, please leave a like, subscribe, whatever. And ultimately, I will be back not too long from now. The episode genuinely might be out the next episode might be out in a few hours, but this is February 21st episode, which by the way will be released on at like 4 a.m. on the 22nd. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and bye bye. Have a good night or a good morning wherever you are.